Yes.
Yes. Can you see or hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah. I don't know why my Zoom crashed. I think they've done an update and it made me download that before I could jump on. So I don't know if anyone...
Okay, so we're up to 21, Rachel. Is there any more you're expecting today? Is it late?
I think there might be a couple of others, but I think we're roughly around 20-ish, so yeah, probably okay to go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I think if we kick off then, Rachel.
Yeah, so just wanted to say thanks very much for everyone for jumping on. This is only the second webinar that we've run in the current circumstances. The first one that we did was a Q&A session with just employment law. We felt that went really well, but we were looking for a new angle when we were thinking of doing sort of follow-up webinars. And I know that a lot of you are kind of oversaturated with a lot of other chambers, a lot of other organisations running the same sort of, webinars as regards to kind of employment law and funding, etc. So we thought this would be a nice kind of spin, future forward, looking into what happens after lockdown, how you secure work and recover from the current situation. And we're lucky enough that before all this kicked off, Andrew Morrison from ARB had contacted us about running an actual event at the time. And we thought, why not move this to a webinar and hold it now? It feels the right time. That a lot of smaller businesses and bigger businesses are starting to think about bidding for new work coming out of this. So we'll kick off with Andrew, a wee bit about the AM bid side of things. I'll let him introduce himself, and then we'll follow on with Andrew Bowman, who is the junior, I think most of you know, Andrew who's just speaking there. He was the junior president here at the Chamber and also runs his own company, ARB Growth. And Andrew will just be going through some bits and pieces on what it is that he does and sort of recovery and business recovery side of things. So yeah, I think we'd maybe try and make a start. I know we're a wee bit late in starting, so I'll let you guys get on. But just from our perspective as well, we've sent out quite a lot of, you've probably seen a lot of communications from the Chamber side of things. We have our own COVID advice hub on our website, where we're trying to kind of keep everything together. Any links or any communications that we get from our own partners, from Scottish Government, etc., and the Scottish Chambers as well have been very involved in helping us along with advice pieces and analysing what's coming out from the government. So please remember that, Chamber member or not, that resource is there for you. And also we'll be looking to run other webinars. So I'd be really interested to get all of your feedback after this event on how you felt it went and what you'd like to see in the future from us, because as you all know, this is the new normal. I think it'll be webinars from now on and no more coffee mornings and breakfast meetings, etc. So yeah, your feedback's really appreciated. I think all my contact details are all over the emails that you've been sent ahead of this webinar, so please feel free to follow up with me afterwards. And I think that's my cue to shut up, is it, Andrew?
Sorry, no, I was just trying to get the technology working, so.
That's fair, as long as that's going fine then. And you've got control of that, Andrew, don't you? Yeah, so I don't need to touch anything.
Yep, I've got this for Andrew, so perfect. Over to you.
Yep, over to you, Andrew.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Rachel and Andrew, and it's a great pleasure to be speaking to people at the Inverclyde Chamber of Commerce. And sorry, I'm not actually in Greenock with you, but hopefully when we get into the actual normal, after the new normal, we'll be able to come there. I'm going to be talking about bidding and winning, because obviously getting public sector contracts is very important for organisations, especially just now as the public sector is, you know, other than probably supermarkets and toilet roll makers and sanitisers, or if you're supplying to the NHS, it is one of the few sectors that is still around, still in business, still putting opportunities out, and they are a sector that if you can win a contract in the public sector, you know, it's going to be a guaranteed source of revenue from a client that's not going to go bust. and they do actually now pay a lot quicker than they used to either. So if we could turn to the next slide, please, is just a brief biog about myself. I started AM Bid in 2014. We're now Scotland's largest bid and tender specialist. My background before starting AM Bid was I managed the bidding function at British Gas across the UK. I worked in property services bidding before that, so I've got a 15-year career in bidding, and 12 years before that working in Scottish local government. I'm actually a social housing professional who was involved in marking bids when I worked in local government, and ended up being headhunted eventually for the private sector. One other thing about AM Bid is that we have 80% bid win rates, and we'll let you know at a very early stage if we're working with you, if we think you don't have a realistic chance of winning. So let's just go through some tips now. We'll move on, please, for this. So first of all, what's happening in the world of procurement? Well, COVID-19 is definitely, having a huge impact on all of our lives and all of our businesses. You will know, obviously, that main focus is on making sure that the nation stays as healthy as possible. So supplies and services connected to the NHS, connected to the care sector, connected to PPE, personal protective equipment, that's all priorities. Local government has also been taking a leading role, as well as its duties to do with care, to do with vulnerable people. They've been supplying food to vulnerable people. There's some school children that only would have got a decent meal at school, and local government are aware of that and helping to take food to these children. They've also been involved in taking homeless people off the streets. So I think in Glasgow, they're staying in the Travel Lodge and other sort of budget hotels to make sure that not only are the homeless people going to be getting more protection than they get on the streets, but also that they're less likely to then pass on any illness to other people. So that's really been what local government has been focused on, and we know what the NHS is focused on. Universities and colleges, they're in quite a difficult situation at the moment because particularly universities, a lot of their students are foreign students. The foreign students bring in income. They also get income from halls of residence. A place like Edinburgh, they rent out the halls of residence, and in the summertime, and they're going to miss out on a lot of that. So they're looking at massive drops to the revenues, which means that they're not doing the same procurement that they used to. What I would say is, if you've got any public sector contracts at the moment, look to see whether you can get them extended, because the public sector have got special powers at the moment under the situation to extend current contracts. They won't always do that, but they might. So it's definitely worth asking. There's also innovation funding that you might want to look into as well. If you're doing anything innovative with your business, there's Scottish Enterprise, there's also Innovate UK. So these are funding that usually matches in some way funding that you're doing yourself. So it might be that the funding is 70%, but you have to pay 30% of what you're doing. Okay, we'll go on to the next slide. What we've all got probably more of than we usually have is time at the moment. So this is time to maybe organise your bid pipeline. Time to think about what sort of clients that you'd like to have. Thinking about the buyers as well. What are they looking for? Thinking about the end of the lockdown, because the end of the lockdown, okay, it's going to be a gradual lifting of restrictions, but it's definitely coming. I mean, it's happened in England, and it shouldn't be too long before it's happening in Scotland as well. Use the search tools to take a look at the contracts that are likely to be coming to the market. And I'm going to give you some websites here shortly about that. But also think about how can you pivot your goods and services to make them in some way attractive to the public sector. And I'm getting quite a lot of inquiries from organisations that, even some quite large ones, they've never had to do a public sector bid before, but now they're realising that there's opportunities there. So definitely something to think about. So we'll move on to our next one, which is just the websites. So in Scotland, all the public sector opportunities come under Public Contracts Scotland. So that is the only show in town really in Scotland, Public Contracts Scotland. Some larger opportunities go into Public Tenders Scotland, but they've always been on Public Contracts Scotland first. If you're going to look a bit wider, looking at opportunities in England or opportunities in Wales or Northern Ireland, there are various websites there as well. Okay, so we'll go on. It's good to think about what is changing with COVID-19. I think Rachel, said it, that obviously there's going to be there is a lot less face-to-face. But there is this adoption of technology, which we're all doing just now, even on this Zoom call. There's also remote working. So many of us are, running our businesses completely remotely now. Interestingly, I saw that the chief exec of Twitter has now said to all his people that they don't have to come back to the office unless they want to. So they can, if they want to stay at home for the rest of their working life with Twitter, they can do that. And definitely we're going to see a lot more home working now. That works well for some people, maybe not as well for others, but think about, perhaps what that means in your business. What it does mean is that you don't necessarily have to be local to deliver your goods or services. So yes, if you want to open a coffee shop or a home food delivery shop or something like that, that's something where you do have to be quite local to do that. But if you are thinking about other things, goods and services, you don't necessarily have to be local. And I think what's happening just now is that organisations are perhaps seeing that they don't need to have the local necessarily suppliers that they used to have. So that presents maybe threats for some existing businesses, but it also presents opportunities. I mean, perhaps your organisation could deliver, services in Edinburgh or in London or in Dublin or in other places. You don't necessarily need to travel there to do that. If that's the case in your business, then I would encourage you to think about how you can actually bid at distance. Okay. Is it possible, Andrew, to mute everybody and just leave me on? We'll just get a bit of feedback there. It was Ian that came up as having done something there. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide as well. Thank you. Good to understand. So in public sector bidding, if you're new to this, or maybe it's something you've done already, you know that by law, the public sector have to publish what their evaluation criteria is. And that's a mixture of price and quality to add up to 100%. Now, we're all doing that with our decisions that we make. So I've put up some supermarkets there. Depending which supermarket you choose to go to, you've made a choice based on price and a quality mix. So for example, if budget is your thing, you want to feed a family of 4 as cheaply as you possibly can, then a shop like Iceland, you can do that. So that would score on price really high. It'll be your own decision how high that scores on quality. A shop like Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's, they're obviously the sort of premium brands. So if this was a price quality mix, they might get 70 or 80% quality, but they wouldn't get such a high score for price because they're quite expensive. Now, what that means in the bid world is the public sector issue a tender, say it's 70% price, 30% quality. And you think, well, we actually deliver premium services. We're quite expensive. We don't distinguish ourselves on price. We're distinguished by the quality of what we deliver. And if something's 70% price, you'll find it difficult if you're a premium service to win that bid. So it's important that you try and understand what kind of bidder you are and that you match what opportunities you go for to ones that look like the evaluation criteria is favourable for what you do. Now, some businesses could be a bit like Tesco, and we know that Tesco have got a finest range, it's got a normal range, and it's got a budget range. So if you're able to flex your business accordingly, then fair enough, but there's many businesses that can't. They're either premium or the budget, and therefore they should be going accordingly for opportunities that are winnable for them. If we'll just move on, please, Andrew. It's good to, if you want to put a little bit of science behind your bids, because otherwise you could find yourself just going for every opportunity. Maybe you're a cleaning company, for example, and there's a tender comes out for cleaning, so you think, well, I'll just go for that because it's what we do, or it's plumbing contract and we're plumbers, or it's a website contract and we're web developers. But what we advocate is that you just put a little bit of science behind it. So say you award a score out of 10 for some main criteria. Now, these aren't the only ones in your decision. They might not be the right ones for you. You've got to work out what the right ones are for you. And you give it a score out of 10 for each of the criteria. Some of the criteria in some of the sectors are more important than others. So I'm just going to give you one example for how I score something. So let's take that top one, existing relationship. So existing relationship, what would a brilliant existing relationship look like? Well, it would look like there's a contract, you won it the last time, maybe you even won it the time before as well. You are working very closely with the client. You are very responsive to them. You've got a good relationship with them. You knew that this tender was coming out because they told you it was coming out. You've perhaps told them some things, ways it could be improved for next time round. You've got a great relationship. You know the price point, you know the people. That's a 10. Maybe a 5 or a 6 is maybe you've got another contract or something. You know some of the people there. You're a bit, you know them. They know you. Maybe you've delivered for them before. That might be a 5. What would a 0 would look like? Well, maybe it's a contract with a housing association, and you'd never heard of that housing association until you saw it come up in Public Contract Scotland. And they'd never heard of you probably either. So that's a 0. There's no relationship. There's no knowledge about them. So you give that a 0. And you just make your own decisions. This particular one for the mathematicians amongst us, they would say that if you got 10 out of 10 on everything here, it'd add up to 100. So what that would mean is that you might want to make a criteria that if it's over 60 out of 100, you'll bid it. If it's between 40 and 59, then you'll think about it. If it's under 40, you just won't bid it at all. Unless maybe there's some big other strategic reason for bidding it. Generally speaking, bidding less wins you more, bizarrely. If you're doing lots of bids and you're unsuccessful, then you probably need to be bidding less, but bidding more smartly for opportunities that are more aligned to what you can do. Okay, well, go on, please. Think about who's marking your bid. So there's a lot of research that's been done in the public sector on who marks the bids. Now, I know because I used to be one of these people that was on that panel. The research shows that there's an average of 5.4 people on the panel. And it looks like there's 5 people in our picture there. So that panel is not just, the people that are responsible for the service. So maybe your firm of architects, it's a bid for architectural services. Who's going to be marking that bid? Well, there'll probably be one architect on the panel. There'll be somebody from procurement probably. Maybe the architectural services bid is for the housing department of the council, say. There'll be somebody from that department on. There might be somebody from finance on, health and safety or other ones that could be on it. So remember then that when you're writing your bid, don't just write it, if it was an architectural bid, in architectural jargon, or if it's IT bid in IT jargon, or whatever your sector is. Remember that your bid's got to be understandable by people who are different stakeholders here. And that also means that they've got their own things that they're thinking about. So in the architectural example, the architect is thinking, well, how experienced architects are they? What projects have they done? How close a fit would that be for what we are looking for here? The person from the housing department would be thinking, well, this is going to be dealing with people, communities. There's going to be a liaison with residents and tenants. So how good are their skills at that? The finance person is going to be thinking about, obviously, money. Is this value for money that we're getting here? Is there any added value? Is there any sort of somethings for nothing here available? The procurement person is there to make sure that everything's compliant. So they're going to make sure that as a business, that you have what you say you have, you've got the necessary insurances or accreditations or professional memberships, and that you're going to be compliant with the specification here. Obviously, if there's legal people, they're going to be looking at these sort of things. They may look at risk as well. So, you know, your sort of risk management is important. Just worth mentioning as well, the panels can include service users, especially say if you're bidding to a housing association, there's probably resident board members there. And they're interested in other things, maybe different things. So, for example, when I worked at British Gas, we were doing heating contracts, and if we came across residents or tenants on the panel, they would be asking, well, are the people going to be wearing their ID? And is it going to be printed on both sides? Because I don't want them coming in with ID going round backwards. And whose toilet are they going to use? Because I don't want them using my toilet. So remember that all these things are considerations in who's marking your bid. Okay, so we'll go on, please. Important also just now, so we're starting to see with bids that there's questions coming in about COVID-19. So how are you going to deal with financials? How financially robust are you? I had a client, a potential new client contacted me from London yesterday. He says, we're £1 billion business. So I said, okay, £1 billion business, but you know, what has happened since the 23rd of March, since lockdown? You know, what sort of reserves have you got? Are you still getting work coming in? You know, what if this goes on for another year? You know, how are you going to be? So no matter what size your business is, how robust are you financially? Because no public sector organisation wants to do business with a company that is about to go bust. So if you were the next Carillion, they don't want to be going near you. So you really need to make sure this is covered off. Okay, we'll just move through these, Andrew. There's other ones. So the COVID-19, it could be that, you know, social distancing is involved. And we know the construction sector in Scotland's itching to get back to the construction sites, but how are they going to deal with social distancing? How are their employees going to be kept safe? And that's something that Scottish Government will want to feel has been satisfactorily answered before they open that up again. Okay, material supply, this is in a construction sector setting, but it could apply to any sector. You know, you possibly need materials to deliver your contract or your services. How are you going to get them? What's happened to your material suppliers? What's happened to them since lockdown? Have they still been working or have they not been? And, you know, how many weeks supply have they got? Because again, the public sector don't want to give you a contract for what is usually quite necessary and important services. If you're going to then say, oh, well, our supplier in China or, you know, Belgium or Wales or Scotland, you know, is not able to get anything to us. So they're going to say, well, what contingencies have you got in place? Okay. How are you going to deal with Brexit? So, for example, if not a trade deal that works well, that, you know, we know when the Brexit vote was taken, there was an immediate hit to sterling. So how would that affect your business? How would that affect your, if you've got materials that come in from outside of the UK, how is that going to affect? And then what about if there's a second independence referendum? How is your business stress tested for that? Does your business rely on a lot of EU national labour? And a lot of these people are either not coming across to the country now, or they're starting to go, they were starting before lockdown, they were starting to go back home to Poland and Bulgaria and places like that. So, you know, can you deliver your service if you didn't have the same amount of EU national labour? Okay, we'll carry on. What about the environment? I mean, environment is having a good time because of the lockdown, but we know the Scottish Government declared a climate emergency last year. So issues of climate are extremely important, and it's important that you're delivering your business in a sustainable fashion, because the public sector do not want to be going into a contract with polluters. They don't want to be going into a contract with people that are not dealing with waste properly. They don't want to be going into contract with people that have got lots of old vehicles that have got high emissions, etc. So this whole, I think probably, you know, if there's one good thing comes out of COVID, is maybe going to be a greater emphasis on the environment. And I think we all realise now that we're doing our work from home that probably lots of the meetings and things that we went to and maybe didn't need to go. I've got clients that used to want me in London for a 3-hour meeting because they didn't like video conferencing, and yet they're coping with it now. So hopefully they don't go back to demanding that I take a whole day to go to London. Okay. So how can you make your bid stand out? When I worked in the public sector, I know sometimes we're reading 10 or more bids, and to be honest, they all sounded the same. We're brilliant, you know, we're good at what we do, we can do this for you and that for you. How do you actually make it stand out? And what I would say here is that you make it as specific as possible. You know, so if you're bidding to, you know, Inverclyde Council, you would be talking not just about Inverclyde Council, you'd be talking about the communities maybe that make up Inverclyde. You'd be talking about the service users for that particular department. Who are the people, both maybe, you know, who are the ones at the council that are going to use the contract, but thinking about the residents, you know, for whose benefit is it, and being really specific. So if we look at the wind themes here, before the Grenville Tower disaster, they used to say in construction, for example, the wind themes were better, faster, cheaper. But we've also got to add safer to that now as well. So, but that's basically, you know, what clients are looking for. They're looking for that you're going to do it better than they're getting it done at the moment. Maybe doing it faster and hopefully doing it cheaper. You probably can't do it all of these, but you've got to tell a story about what you are going to do. What is actually unique about your company? So I just one back, Andrew, just one little second. It was what is unique about your business, what's really unique. And the bottom one is what can you guarantee? So when I was in the City of Edinburgh Council marking bids, and I would see bids where they would say, we strive to have 10 apprentices if we get this 4-year contract. But the company that said we will have 4 apprentices, there'll be 1 taken on each year. They'll be going to Telford College on the day release on a Tuesday. It was really specific and it was guaranteed. So the 4 guaranteed was better than the striving to have 10 because actually there was nothing guaranteed there. Okay, we go on to the next one. Watch out for own goals in bidding. The reference to the wrong client name's a showstopper. That's where maybe you've written a bid to Inverclyde Council and you just change Inverclyde to Renfrewshire or something, but you forget one time, and that is not good bidding at all. And sometimes it can result in your bid being disqualified. The imbalanced response mentioned at the top right is maybe you're asked 3 things in a question, and you're asked to write 1,000 words. Well, it's good to clarify with the client if you to cover these equally, these 3 things, because if that's what they expect, then you're looking for about 300 odd words on each. You're not looking for 700 words on the first part of it and then 200 and 100 because you're running out of the 1,000 words. Because if they're scoring that equally, you've got the imbalanced response. Okay, we'll go on again. Is that okay? That's it, the bid hints and tips. So here's number 2, very important that you fully comply with the client bidding instructions. You know, if you don't comply with that, then your bid could be disqualified. The main one, of course, to comply with is the bid deadline. You've got to get your bid in, and we advise well before the deadline. You know, within, you know, maybe 12 to 24 hours before the deadline. If you leave it to the last minute, you could have problems. Number 6, it's important as well that you get a few people looking at your bid, not too many, but just a few to take a look at it, see if it makes sense to them. Number 8 is encourage all the staff to think bid. The best things that are happening in your organisation, if it's more than just yourself, could be happening out with your knowledge. It could be somebody's doing something good for a customer, somebody's turned around a problem, really helped a client. You want that sort of stuff to find its way into your bid. That's like bid gold dust. Okay. And our next one is knowing when to get help. So a lot of people don't know that there's actually companies like ourselves that will actually help you with writing your bid, helping advise you on your bid. Maybe there's more bids than you can cope with, or maybe you just are unfamiliar with bidding. And it could be an idea to bring us in for a bid, either to write it all with you or for you, but also if you don't want that service, we've got one where we can just review and comment on your bid to strengthen it. Involving us in some way in your bid will always give you a greater chance of success than trying to mark your own homework. Okay, so we'll go on. Was to do with any questions now. Did you want, I'll just take guidance from Rachel and Andrew here. Did you want questions for me just now, or do you want to do Andrew's presentation and then take the questions? I'm fine either way.
I would say probably just take the questions now for yourself, Andrew, while everything's fresh in everyone's minds, and then we'll do another set of questions after the other Andrew's done his piece.
Okay. So any questions or comments that anybody has got about the public sector bid process? I can also talk about private sector bidding as well, if you've got questions about that.
Andrew, just in terms of percentages, what's the difference? I'm presuming maybe 90% public sector you work on, but how many private sector do you see as well?
So we work about 80% of the time on public sector bids, and we do see private sector bids as well. So just in sort of recent times, we've done bids for Hewlett-Packard, a company bidding to become a supplier to Hewlett-Packard. We've done one for the drinks industry, an e-commerce bid for Pernod Ricard. We've done a bid to Tesco's. We've done a bid to British Gas. So we do bids to private sector organisations as well.
And does it tend to be the bigger boys that are looking for that process?
So yes, so the big companies have got procurement departments that work maybe not quite the same as public sector procurement, but they do put bidders through a procurement process, and they often call it things like RFP. They look for a request for a proposal or a request for quotation, RFQ. So they go through these processes, which are a little bit similar to public sector bidding.
Okay. Any other questions for Andrew at this stage?
Andrew, have you ever seen a public sector bid where they don't choose someone with the lowest price? I know that's normally a condition of a public sector, but if the quality is poor, I believe they can override that. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, so just to say, Jill, no, that it's not quite correct to say they always choose the lowest price. What they do is they have the price quality split. So they only choose the lowest price if the bid is advertised as 100% pricing. And not very many of them are advertised as 100% pricing. Usually there's a certain percentage for quality and a certain percentage for price. So what most of our clients find is that they're first on quality and third or fourth on price and first overall. So they've not done the lowest price, but they've done the best quality. And if you add the two together, the price score and the quality score, it totals, you come to an overall total score, and the winner is the person who's got the highest overall total score.
Okay, it's just in my experience, quite, if you're most of them are kind of the same on quality, and it's always the lowest price. Obviously gets the highest marks, whether it's 70-30, 80-20, 60-40.
I do understand that. What we advocate there, and I didn't do it today for time reasons, but we advocate asking a lot of clarification questions during the bid process, because actually oftentimes the bidders aren't going to all provide the same level of service. So in fact, what some bidders will do is they'll deliberately price low, and they'll look to maybe miss things out, substitute something cheaper, or look to charge extra, like as variations. Oh, you want that? Oh, I didn't know you wanted that. Well, it'll cost you this. So we flush all that out with clarification questions. And then what happens is the prices come a lot closer together. And once the prices are closer together, there's then more focus on the quality. you said the quality is often similar, and it is often similar unless you've got bid professionals, bid specialists in writing your bid, and they will write you a brilliant bid that will blow the rest out of the water.
Plug. Thanks.
Andrew, a common one we see a lot locally is people that have maybe tendered in the past and have been put off, if you like, or have not had an enjoyable experience of going through that, and therefore kind of see it's a closed avenue. Do you have any advice around businesses that have been down that route before?
I would say definitely speak to us, and what we do is we begin with a bid gap analysis where we take a look at previous bids, and we will identify the reasons why they haven't won. And usually it's not because of what they think. Often they think, oh, well, there's this existing supplier that knows the person at the council or the health board, and that company always seems to win. But actually, when we start looking at their bids, we say, do you know what? This bid, we can see the reason why it hasn't won. We can let them know that. We can let them think about it and sort of sometimes take action. There's maybe things that they have to do about not just about the presentation of the bid and how they're writing it, but about their service, because it could be that their actual products or services are no longer kind of what, for example, the public sector are actually looking for.
Yeah, I know you've seen that a lot with the construction forum in the past.
Okay.
Anything else for Andrew at this stage?
Andrew, hi.
Andrew, I was going to ask about in terms of how long your company's been established. Is there I think in a previous company we put a tender in, and one of the rules was you had to be operating for 3 years plus. So is that usually a restriction?
I'm actually seeing that a lot less now, Jen. I'm seeing the public sector are more up for working with micro businesses and also small, medium enterprises. A company contacted me a few months ago. They'd been in business for 1 month, and they were wanting to do a cleaning contract with the University of Edinburgh. And I said, come on, that's been around for nearly 500 years. They're not going to take on a company that's been 1 month. But I said, come back to me once you've, maybe been 12 months in business and once you've got a track record behind you. But, once you've been, say, 6 to 12 months in business, you could begin to, start to take baby steps into public sector tendering with smaller contracts, not going for a massive contract. I would say the massive contracts, usually you've got to generally have been at least 12 months and usually more. And they're going to be cautious now as well with small businesses, because of the economic situation. But provided you've got, say you've been in business a year and you've got accounts and you've got a cash flow projection for the year ahead, then you may have enough to actually meet their minimum criteria. There was another lady trying to ask a question as well. Was it Alison? Or?
Yeah, I think it was Alison.
Yeah. Hi, Andrew. Apologies, I didn't get onto the call until late, so you might have covered this already, but I'm just wondering, what's your top tips for writing a really good community benefit statement in a public tender bid?
Yes, and I didn't really cover that one, Alison, so it's a good question. So community benefits, so just to say for people as well, that in England that they call that social value, in Scotland they call it community benefits, it's the same thing. I would say talking about it being really tailored. So one thing that I did mention in the presentation was that, if you're talking about taking on apprentices, if you're going to be doing that you bring it to life. You say when you're going to be taking them on, how you're going to recruit them, how you're going to train them, what college they're going to attend, and you're really, really specific. If it was, say, I'll tell you a brilliant one that we were involved with was a construction company that was going to be building social houses, and they put in their bid that they recognised that the community needed a community centre. A small community centre, because the one they had was, just, it was too far away actually for that particular local community to attend. So they said, we know we need a site office. So if the council allow us to use a part of the land, we will use it. We'll build an actual community centre, but we'll use it as a site office until the whole, site has been handed over, and it'll be handed over as a community centre. Now, that's on a bigger scale, but that was an example of delivering something that a community actually needs. So I would encourage you to speak to the communities, find out what they need. If maybe the contract is only going to be for a few tens of thousands of pounds, then maybe what you're looking at as a community benefit is going to be a few £100s worth, but it's going to be something really meaningful and specific for that community.
Thanks, Andrew. Anyone else? Also, if Andrew's here. Okay, I should have said and maybe clarified with you, Andrew, as well. Are you okay if we share the slides with all the attendees today?
That's fine, and I'm happy to stay on the call as well. And also, if anybody wants to contact me afterwards, that's fine too.
Right, we'll share Andrew's details too, so everyone can get in touch. Okay, just to probably round off, or pass back to Rachel then. So my own company, ARB Growth, dovetails fairly well with what Andrew's company offers. We very much focus on growth of organisations, particularly smaller organisations, SME growth, and that can be through a whole manner of ways, and predominantly through grant funding. There's probably never been more support available than what there is at the moment, even pre-COVID. But it's probably never been more confusing as well for businesses to understand what they can actually access, how they can access it, and I suppose ultimately where they can go to try and draw some of that down. So we tend to step into that void. We tend to sit down with businesses and understand what it is they're trying to achieve, where is it they're trying to get to. Again, shockingly, a lot of businesses don't actually have this down on paper or presentation, or a strategy or a growth strategy, if you like. It tends to be stuck in the owner's head or the MD or the chief exec's head around where they're going to go, what their challenges are, what they're trying to aim for. So again, we tend to get involved in teasing that out, bringing staff into that as well, so there's a granular level of understanding, and then more importantly, a kind of shift of direction as to where everybody's trying to get to, how we can achieve. Again, even pre-COVID, we did around about 125 grants worth of grants last year for businesses, either accessing funding to support maybe CapEx or different machinery or pieces of kit or software that they require to help grow their business, or alternatively sitting down with organisations to understand what is it they would need to take that leap into the next stage. COVID for us has been a very, very busy period. We've probably done just shy of £500,000 worth of grants for different businesses, different scales, tapping into all different range of support that's available for them. And again, I would implore any of you that have a business that maybe put it off or thinking you'll get to it, I would say get in now, do it quickly if you need some advice on that. Again, we offer a free service to help you understand what grants are available. We'll help you draw together what's required, including the application form. And then ultimately, if you are awarded the grant, then that's the only time we would come and look for any sort of fee, which we would agree up front with you as well. So, tap into the resource, tap into the kind of expertise, if you like, and understand what it is that cash could do. For many of those businesses we've supported so far, it's pure survival. It's pure cash flow. And as Andrew said earlier, cash is king at the moment. So, what's your reserves looking like? How much are you burning through that currently? And more importantly, how are you going to survive kind of post-COVID or post-shutdown, certainly, for your business? Again, a lot of people, I think, are just expecting, end of May or whenever the First Minister says we can continue and start to integrate back to some form of normality, that things will just return back to normal. And the world has changed, particularly the business world has changed, arguably for the better, arguably for the worse in some cases, but things are not going to go back to the way they were in, say, February this year. And therefore, each organisation needs to be thinking about the innovation, the opportunity, the threats, most importantly, and where they go to get that support or that understanding. And again, that's where we're here to specialise and support and speak to businesses as well. So I'm very keen to just give the floor opportunities to ask more questions, even network with one another, maybe some of your experiences. I know a lot of you have been in touch already, either through Rachel, myself, or other members of the Chamber Board, to ask for support, clarification. You know, can we open again? If so, what do I need to do to reopen? And that's really what the Chamber's here to do. So regardless of whether you're a member or not, please utilise you know, Rachel and the board members for their kind of guidance and their advice for your business, because it's critical. And I'm sure you've all read the headlines, you know, with the COVID capital of Scotland at the moment, deaths per 10,000 people. We're already get the SIMD's own #1 ranking in Scotland. So, you know, Inverclyde is coming in for some fairly negative press, as it has done for a while now. But it's not all negativity, and we are seeing a lot of positive stories when you scratch that surface and you see the community response. And there's great opportunity here still for businesses to grow, to come into Inverclyde and to maximise that opportunity as well. So again, either through myself, through Andrew, or through the Chamber, you know, happy to have a chat with you, happy to understand what your business is looking to do, and then if we can support from there, then great. And again, much like Andrew and the Chamber, if I can't help myself, 99% of the time we'll put you on to the right people that can support you or can give you the guidance that you need, through our own networks or through our own kind of connections and contacts too. So I'll put you back to Rachel at this point. If there's any questions, happy to take them. Over to you, Rachel.
Yeah, I would just reiterate everything that you've said there, Andrew. I think a lot of people think that we're quite closed off, which just isn't the case, especially in times like this. We want the entire business community in Inverclyde to know that the Chamber are here for you. We've already produced a we delivered document, which we put on our website as of last week, which sets out exactly what the Chamber have been up to over the last few weeks and what we've been doing for businesses locally, and lobbying Scottish Government, and also our connections through the main Scottish network of all the chambers across Scotland, what we've been doing to sort of support businesses and put across your cases. And I know that a lot of the time that some of the sort of niche pieces that people have been putting forward to me, where a lot of the time it's funding, where the business doesn't fall in and they're falling through that net. That's the kind of pieces that we really want to hear about, so that we can push your side of the story to the decision makers essentially, and try and see what we can do to provide as much support and funding as we can for you, to make sure that you all get through this, and that Inverclyde's a prettier picture at the end of all this, shall we say. And again, like Andrew said, a positive news story rather than the doom and gloom that we've been hearing about the area recently. So yeah, again, like Andrew said, I think if everyone's happy, if anyone else has got any questions for myself, Andrew, or the other Andrew M, or Andrew B, please feel free to take the floor. And like Andrew said, we'll be passing on all the details, contact details for myself, both Andrews, and all the links that Andrew shared in his presentation. They'll be going out in an email to you after this call as well. And feel free to follow up on anything in there. Again, feedback's a big thing, so if you can all drop me a wee email, let me know what you thought, and what you'd like to see. If there's any specific areas that you'd like for us to cover in a webinar in the future, let me know. But has anyone else got any other questions for any of the hosts? All being shy, are we?
What I would just add to that, Rachel, was I think if we've seen anything during the last 2 months, it's that the voice of businesses has had an opportunity to put forward their individual cases, regardless of size, scale, makeup, you know, how they've paid themselves, etc. So, you know, now is the best opportunity you're ever going to get for a politician to sit and listen to what your challenges are and what your opportunities are. So please take full advantage of that. If you don't feel you're getting the support, or you don't feel that you know, the levies or other parts have gone far enough for you, then you know, let the Chamber know and let us raise that through our own channels, because it's the only way it will possibly be listened to. Yeah, and they're always, and Scottish Chambers especially, are in daily contact with the big decision makers, Kate Forbes, and they also had webinars all last week with the opposition party leaders as well. So there's that real immediate connection to the key people. Like Andrew says, that we can raise concerns on your behalf
and we've seen quite a lot of action through that. Like I said, the document that we put on our website last week sets out exactly what we asked for, and almost all of it's been delivered. If not, we're still pushing that forward as best we can. So yeah, please remember that we're here for you. And like I said, all the links and all the details will be out in an email to you shortly after the call. But I think we maybe just wind up if no one else has any other questions for Andrew or myself. Well, thank you all very, very much, like I said, and I hope you're all staying safe. And Lizzie, it's lovely to see you in your nice sunny garden as well. I think everyone should be taking your lead and getting outside for a bit of sunshine. But yeah, thank you all very much. Stay safe, and please keep an eye on the website for any of our future events. We'd love to see you back again. All right, so thank you very much all.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Andrew.
Cheers.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, bye.